Throughout Attack on Titan, Mikasa has a bunch of headaches, and a lot of people seem to be confused as to why they happen. From my perspective, they certainly aren't the byproduct of her Ackerman genes, and there's no convincing evidence that they're a symptom of Mikasa resisting a memory wipe. And contrary to popular belief, they're not even triggered by Ymir watching the world through Mikasa's eyes. The reason for their existence is very clear, so let's get straight to it. And for that, we have to go back to when the two men attempted to kidnap Mikasa's mother. In the process of kidnapping Mikasa's mother, the two kidnappers wind up killing both her parents. Scared little Mikasa, seeing the sudden deaths of her parents right in front of her eyes, stands frozen in shock. One of the kidnappers, a bit panicked from their plan to kidnap Mikasa's mother having gone wrong, decide to kidnap Mikasa instead. One of them picks her up by the shirt and gives her a solid punch to the head, knocking her out. They carry her away to a cabin and she wakes up with a pounding headache. She's lost her entire family and is laying on the cabin floor, cold, alone, and completely empty. She's so emotionally lost that she hasn't even shed a single tear throughout this entire series of events. This terrible feeling of pure emptiness and pain at the loss of her family buries itself deep into her mind, intertwined with the memory of this pounding headache. And so, being knocked to the ground by the kidnapper was where her headaches first began, and future experiences that force the recollection of this trauma are what trigger the psychosomatic headaches that echo throughout the rest of her life. So what experiences exactly trigger the recollection of this trauma? Is it the fear of pain, or the feeling of being cold? It's actually neither of these. The recollection of her trauma is triggered by Mikasa thinking she is losing people she cares about, losing her family for a second time. She gets a headache after the death of Carla, after thinking that Eren's died in the Battle of Trust, after seeing the female Titan eat Eren in the Forest of the Giant Trees, after learning that Eren was taken by Reiner and Bertolt after their fight at All Rose, after seeing Armin lying on the rooftop burnt to a crisp by the Colossal Titan, and finally in the midst of the Battle of Heaven and Earth, once when she believes Armin's explosion killed Eren, and again toward the end of the battle where it seems she is going to lose every friend that is still alive and will be forced to kill Eren to prevent that from happening, being forced to lose her family for a second time. Now there's two other instances, and they're the two headaches that are caused by Mikasa's interactions with Louise, the little girl she saves back in the Battle for Trust. Right after saving her and exchanging a military salute, Mikasa gets a headache. The reason for this is pretty straightforward. On seeing Louise and her mother happily alive and together in a situation that could have easily resulted in their deaths, Mikasa is reminded of her own personal trauma. And many years later, when Louise is imprisoned for leaking information about Eren's arrest, she salutes Mikasa once more, reminding her of the first time she saved her, and hence, once again, the kidnapping incident, this time showing us through a creepier, more distant framing of Eren, that Mikasa is afraid that she may be losing the Eren she thought she knew, the warm young boy who saved her from her trauma, and gave her a new family all those years ago. So Mikasa gets headaches due to recalling her trauma, and what tends to cause the recollection of this trauma are emotionally stressful situations where she feels she is about to lose people she cares about. Sure, you can go ahead and inject theories about resisting memory wipes, and that maybe Ymir is looking inside her head only at these very specific moments, but that's all just extra stuff that you can choose to believe if you want, but it doesn't negate the core of these headaches, that they all stem from Mikasa's recollection of her trauma. So there we go, we've addressed the title of the video, with a straightforward answer as to why Mikasa gets her headaches. But Mikasa is a character within a story, so yes, she gets psychosomatic headaches, but these headaches should serve a narrative purpose, and the way I see it, they most certainly do. So now let's flash forward to the Battle of Heaven and Earth. Levi's words echo in Mikasa's mind, we're the only ones left who can kill Eren. The headaches begin beating her down, reminding her of the trauma of losing her family, chaining her back from killing Eren, the person she loves, the one who saved her from the tragic incident all those years ago by giving her a new family. These headaches remind her that without Eren's help in moving on from her tragedy, she is just a cold, empty girl lying on a cold cabin floor, alone and destined to remain that way forever. So now she is forced to make the ultimate choice, whether to listen to her headaches, cling to Eren and bury herself in fear of her trauma, or to face the headaches, end Eren's life, and use her own strength to take the first solid step beyond her fears, all on her own. And I guess we all know the choice she ends up making. She struggles her way through the headaches and acts symbolic of pushing through the trauma of losing her family, using her own strength to move on from past tragedy and choosing to end Eren's bloodshed for the sake of humanity. So now let's talk about our founder Ymir. King Fritz killed her parents, burnt her village, cut out her tongue, and caused unfathomable trauma that tormented her entire immortal existence. And through the alternate history panel in the final chapter of Attack on Titan, we see the life that Ymir wished she could have lived. A life where she was able to move on from her love for the wicked King Fritz. Through her saddened eyes as she conjures an image of this wishful past, we learn that she is someone who regretted the steps she took through life. But up until this moment, she knew of no other path through life, as love, no matter how nightmarish, no matter how one-sided, was the only vehicle for happiness she had ever been exposed to throughout her entire traumatic life. This love is what she desperately clung to as she buried herself in her trauma, leading to a life she would come to regret. Without it, she was just a sad, empty slave, living a lonely, tormented life. But this young girl with all-seeing sight watched Mikasa as she lived her life and saw a woman with whom she could truly empathize conjure the strength to move on where she never could. Through seeing Mikasa's choice to use her own strength to push through her trauma, Ymir sees it's possible for her to move on from her own trauma too, finally appearing as a woman and making the power of the Titans, the symbolic embodiment of her trauma, disappear from the world. And so, why does Mikasa have headaches? So that Attack on Titan can tell the story of a traumatized, empty girl using her own strength to move forward from tragedy. If Mikasa can do it, and Ymir can do it, then so can you.